What do you think of that? Guys, I'm halfway through the process of restoring the dashboard and all the interior plastics on this car, fixing them with carbon fiber and epoxy resin. I've lost all the video up until this point. I was able to salvage some. I don't know what happened. This video took me so long. I got so many hours and I was so focused on doing what I was doing. My drive got backed up and then all of a sudden I fat fingered something and I deleted everything and I lost forever. Just get you caught up to speed where we're at. For me, my car, it's a Florida car. It's been exposed to the sun for many years and that plastic is just so brittle. If I squeeze it real hard, I'll crack it. Here's a perfect example of why I'm going about this. I already started doing like I did inside here, right? These are all cracks, guys. There's hundreds of them everywhere. I don't know how this is going to come out yet, guys. We're freestyling. So obviously I'm going to wrap everything here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to stop it here and then come in with some paints. I'm not going to wrap this. I'm just going to maybe paint this. I might do some stripe work on here. Depending on how it looks when it comes together. Maybe I'll put a stripe. I don't know. I don't care who tells you what. Sometimes, you know, you have a vision in your mind and you know what you think you want and you work towards that. But sometimes things change along the way and then all of a sudden you end up with something a little bit different than you expected. There's no rules. When you do stuff like this, you have that freedom, you know? Maybe I'll break the airbrush out. It depends on how I feel. I have not rushed anything at all when it comes to this project. Now's not the time to start rushing, especially parts like the dashboard where it's in your eyeball all the time. So the hardest part for me that I have to find within myself is to not rush and slow things down a little bit. Because I want to start get into the wiring and start finishing this thing off. But I know I have to pace myself because from this moment, going back together now, after this dash is done, the car's going back together. That's it. What it's going to be is going to be what it is. If that makes sense. Getting onto it. Basically what I showed you as far as making carbon, you know, sky's the limit. You got to use your imagination sometimes. So this is what I've come up with the headliner. It's the original cardboard material and I just kind of used that as a quasi mold to make a carbon headliner. It's not perfect, but it was the best thing I can come up with and it was done in a timely manner. It didn't take me months to do it. So these are trailer lights. The nice part about these lights, it's got a brake light, a parking light, and a reverse light that's clear. So with the door switch right there, when the door's open, you know, the interior light will come on, and then when you close the door, this will shut off. All right, but say I'm working on the car and I just don't want to be draining the battery, I can come over here and kill that whole part of it. Right now, see how bright that is, right? That's the brake light. So if I need a navigation light, boom. All right, I don't know if you can see the difference. I mean, that's super bright, and then there's my nav light. Okay, so I could be driving around, hanging out with that on, and it won't be blinding me, you know. So shut that off, and if I want a white light, there we go. All right, so that's how I did the switches. So these mounts and this dropout, I guess you would call it, and this little switch mount, I cut a block of Divinyl foam. It holds up to epoxy and polyester resin. So just did a little quick, you know, glued it on there, sanded it, shaped it. And then when I drilled my holes, when I came back after the whole thing was done, I dug out the foam, and I was left with this nice hollow in there. so I can, you know, mount my switches and stuff. So pretty cool setup. I think, you know, minimalistic, very simple. Works for me. I learned a lot throughout my freestyle motorcycle career when it comes down to fixing plastics, okay? Typically, you know, what I've done now, I filled all the holes where the speaker vent is, simply because this plastic is so old and it's so brittle, it'll just break, okay? And it's very odd shape because of the angle of the way the cage goes. So this thing's got to slide in, and then it's got a little bit of an odd shape. So you don't really see it. It's kind of cool. I came in with just standard body filler. Now I could have used like a fiberglass reinforced filler, but whatever. So I came in with that. Now, as a rule of thumb, you never want to put epoxy with a styrene-based product like body filler or polyester resin. So here what I'm using, it's a Fasco product. This is like a real bougie JB Weld style product. It's epoxy bonding agent, very, very good. I mean, this stuff is real strong. Can you use JB Weld? Absolutely. I love JB Weld. All right. So, but between these two pieces, like if you look from the backside, if you look in there, I don't have any of the body filler. All right. So technically, the surface that it's touching, all right, is absent any of the styrene-based product. All right. This will get sanded down, and then I'm going to come in with some more body filler and smooth this out, okay? This can be done if you're careful to get all the epoxy out of where you're putting the body filler, all right? If it does interact with each other, it just doesn't cause a very good... They don't play well together. And if you do have to go that route, you definitely have to let it cure 100% and then get a good, real rough sand on it to get that good mechanical bond, because you're absolutely not going to get a chemical bond between a styrene-based product and epoxy. It just doesn't. They don't jive. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to block everything out. I'm going to put some body filler, sand it, get everything real smooth. All right. Blend these lines out. And that's it. We're working on, basically what's happening is I'm customizing the dashboard, a lot of mods, roll cage, custom look. It's going to get laminated with carbon fiber. So with the carbon, just like paint, the carbon material is so thin, you got to be basically paint prepped, ready to go before you lay that carbon on. It's got to be perfect surface. If not, you're going to see every little imperfection. Pretty sure most of you have this mount broken off. So what I've done is, same thing. I've come in with a couple pieces of carbon. I glued it on, and you can see here, this is how I've radiused the whole thing. So you make the radius nice. Okay, no hard edges. So now I'll come in, and from the inside, because I don't want to change this outside diameter too much. So, because I still want everything to line up nice. I'll come in from the inside now, lay 1 or 2 pieces of carbon, close all this in real good, and that's bonded forever, guys. That'll never ever break. It's amazing how strong epoxy could be when you prep it right. You know, you got to get a good mechanical grip by sanding it down, and I mean it's forever. Every freaking piece of plastic's busted. I mean, come on. Again, little piece of carbon, sand it down real good. Came in there with the epoxy again, the bonding epoxy, little clamp action, boom, done. So I'll shape this. I'm going to put a corner back on it, boom, like that. I'll sand it down nice, and then what I'll do from the back, I'll wrap it in one piece, one layer of carbon, you know, and then that'll do it. So little brackets like that. I mean, it should never ever break again. I mean, it is what it is, but we got all this with some nice body filler. Gonna do some sanding party on that. Keep it going. No change. Same old technique. Got everything sanded though. So that's looking good. No more linea. keep going. The more I keep messing with this thing, the more cracks I found. I mean, it was just loaded. Oh my God, everywhere. Every single thing was broken. But I think I got it licked. I would move it and show the inside now, but everything's kind of sticky. This is the problem. Everything's sticky, guys, and if you're messing with the phone is a situation. So, you know, being that I'm not running any of the factory HVAC ductwork, I'm converting the ends. I chopped them off, shrunk them down, cut them, heat gun, totally freestyled these vents, and then did a carbon tape on each of them, wrapped them up, smacked some epoxy on there. Then what I'll do is I'll cut the end off, slide the hose over, hose clamp, be good to go. But that's how that's looking, guys. You know, when you do these repairs, this is, you know, you do the sanding later, but when you get that epoxy on there, don't expect it to look pretty, because you know the carbon starts to fray like that, and that's kind of like the nature of it. Well, guys, sanding, and more sanding has led me to here. Now you can see there's no primer or nothing like that over the bodywork. I just hit it with a quick spray bomb, the whole thing, make it one color. Alright, ideally for skinning you want everything black. Okay, now trying to get this to fit, this little defroster grill jammy. This is going to be a little bit of a challenge. I see a lot of fiddling going on in my future. So, you know, you got to think about stuff like this. I'm thinking about how I'm going to lay the material. I'm thinking about how I'm going to make all these curves. And it's kind of like one of them situations, a little high stress, because you want to nail it in one shot, not make any mistakes, and waste a bunch of product, all right? So best I can say is think about what you're doing. I'm going to think about what I'm doing. Went with the polyester anyway. I mean, it looks like it's curling up the plastic. And it is. So, of course, when it's on the bench, no problem. But now that I'm actually making something out of it, it's curling up. That's par for the course. I don't know if you can see it in there. See how the plastic's curling? So whatever, it's just, at least I'm going to have a general shape that I'm looking for, and then I can always fix that. So, no biggie. All right, we'll let that cure up and then pop it off there and see if I destroyed the holly or I'm actually going to make something out of this thing. We'll see. Damn, that shit is strong. All right, so last thing I did real quick, I just took some saran wrap and I wrapped the top of this so it'll dry, because the resin I'm using is unwaxed. So, you know, there's the saran wrap right there, boom. And then after I saran wrapped it, it's already set a little bit. I just did a little perimeter cut to check, and it's looking pretty good. All right, so real quick, just put that back down. And we'll let it cure now. All right. One layer of chop strand mat with some polyester resin. That's the Silmar surfboard resin. Let's see how we did. Pretty good. When I talk about the sticky, I mean, this is, look at my hands, you see? This is why I can't be filming as much as I'd like to doing this, but here I'm just working the carbon a little bit. With the polyester, you gotta be on your game, guys. You know, gotta have everything prepared. Notice, like, I used 1 cup of resin and I got another one on standby, so I wouldn't even have to fidget around with the gallon, but I'm not going to need it, so I'll just pour it back. This part's kind of small to fin roll it. I'm just doing what I can here on the edge, on this radius. Temperature right now is about almost 80 degrees. So you get about maybe 11 to 12 minutes before this stuff starts to gel. See, it's already starting to kick now. So I'm going to do a quick little desperado move. Make sure I'm good. There you go. I didn't wax the resin. I just came in and put the saran wrap on. It depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it. I like doing this simply because once it's applied, I can come in and really push tight on my carbon. And I know that I don't mind. It's not about getting a good finish. This is the inside and behind the dash. It's about getting the carbon where I need it to be accurately and strong. I'm looking for strength here as well, because not only is this going to support the Terminator screen, but these edges here are going to act as support for the entire dashboard. So you'll see when we get it mounted in there. Forget I got the monster tack and a lot of extra weight, and that plastic's so thin, so everything's got to get reinforced real good, so I don't want to be like, 6 months down the road the thing crack on me, you know what I mean? I actually cut these pieces before I made that mold, because I cut them and I was like, after I cut these, this would work, and now I would have had to build around it. So I'm still going to use this, I'm just not going to be building around it. I'm going to actually bond the mold to this. So that's why, after I did that, I closed up shop, and then I was like, I gotta pull a mold. You gotta think 10 steps ahead, not what's next. Because when you're 10 steps ahead, you're gonna avoid some mishaps, per se. There's like a magical moment when the carbon gets so sticky and it'll actually stay. Probably about 2 hours after you lay it up initially. You put epoxy down first, let it get real tacky, and then put it on. That's one way to do it. But you can't correct anything. You make one mistake, it's a wrap. There's always one spot that's a pain in the ass. Of course, this little tiny strip right here where the defroster vent goes, it's whooping on me right now. What I do is I hold the edge here on the bottom, I'm holding it, and I push down, and I rock it. I'll rock the my popsicle stick and tuck it in there, because I'm only going to come in here with a razor blade. I'm just trying to get that edge, and by nature, carbon does not like a little tight edge like that. It sucks. I'll use this technique a lot too. I push to roll that edge up, and I tighten it. It's so sticky for so long, and it really doesn't mold well until the last 6 or 7 minutes. So once you get to this point, you got 6 or 7 minutes to work with it. Because then from this state, it's kind of like a gel. Or like a clay. After this, that's it. It starts to harden. And then once it hardens, that's it. You can't move it. So you got to work quickly and know your piece. That's what 2 coats of resin looks like. So that was blocked, you know. Second coat of resin without blocking on the dash. You see, that's where I sanded it before, and then this is the new, so you can see. All right. So now, sanding time. So if you look at the top right corner above the screen, you'll see that piece of Definicil that I glued on there to stretch the dashboard. Due to the shape, I took a different approach on this one. I tinted some epoxy black, coated the whole surface, and then I took the material and laid it up after it tacked off, just because it was too much manipulation on the material itself. Then this happened. That's carbon on steroids. So this is a 6-ounce, 12K carbon fiber flat toe material that you're going to see typically in the aviation world. Fuselages, airplane wings, and so on. Real nice stuff. Sometimes, you know, there's rules to the game on your basic procedures, and sometimes you gotta sometimes you gotta push your limits and test yourself a little bit. I will tell you that this has totally beat the shit out of me. I've been working on it now for approximately 4 weeks, and I've got over at least 100 hours into this. The modifications, the repairs, and then the finished work. I don't think this has ever been done before. I've never seen it done. Someone may try to copy this in the future, and that's fine. Or unless somebody's mastered doing something like this already, hey, more power to you. All right. But as for me, I've never seen it, and it's just something that I decided, you know, hey, I like to push my limits too. I mean, I do these videos to try to show you guys how I do things, and also hopefully you can learn. But at the same time, I like to push myself too, because I don't know everything either. All right, and I like to play and experiment myself. Part of learning is failure. So if you do decide to do some stuff like this, just don't do it on anything important. You know, do it on something that if you ruin it, it's no big deal. This cluster cover and all that, this is your helm, guys. This is the part that you're looking at. This is the part that you're touching. It's so important for this to come out right. The process itself is slow because the products, you know, are slow. Like, even though I'm using a medium epoxy total boat, when you lay it up, you know, it's got to sit 10 hours before you can actually touch it again. So I try to set everything up so I can do all my prep work. Come the nighttime, I can lay it up, let it dry overnight with the door closed, because when the epoxy sits open for a long time, it'll take a lot of dust on. So you gotta try to control the dust over a duration of a long time, because it'll just sit open and tacky for a while. So that's part of the challenge as well. It's a 3K twill. I had to do this in multiple sections, and I've seamed it here, seamed the sides here like this, all the way around. I just seamed the front section here like this, and then blend it down into this area where it leads to the gauges, simply because this is definitely going to get like a flat black in here, because I don't want that glare when I'm looking at the gauges. Basically what I'm doing is I'm sanding it off on the body line, all right, and blending everything out. And hopefully, depending on how it turns out, I'm not sure, I might airbrush a line, I might do a fade, I might tint this, I might just leave it the way it is. I don't know, you know, I don't know how it's going to turn out yet. In the channel, looking back at other videos, we've done body work together. We've painted, we've done body work. I showed you how to make one-off carbon fiber filler panels. I showed you a flat panel. And now this would be like, you know, restoration lamination. Restoration lamination, how do you like that? This is where you use all your skills. When you go start to finish, it's not just one set. You gotta use it all to make something like this happen. So, and there's nothing fast about it. I mean, this is a very, very meticulous procedure that just takes time. That's all I can tell you, really. On this, you have blind because how the clear shows the carbon. As soon as you run over it, I see a little carbon popping through. I got to stop there because if not, I'm going to burn through it. But I need it a little bit more here, so you just got to go real slow. Every stroke of the sandpaper kind of matters. One mistake, you ruin it. You know, and how do you fix that? You don't. Okay, so if you want it crisp, that blending, like I said, I mean, I've never blended two different materials before like this. This is after 3 rounds of blocking. Okay, so we've done epoxy. This is only twice right here, but on the sides. All right, it's been skinned with carbon, then it's had a coat. I let it dry, I blocked it, another coat, dry, block, and another coat, and I blocked it again. So the final on this one is in 180. The first couple passes I did in 80 grit for a block, and now we're in 180. Now, the unsung hero here in this job is this resin right here by Total Boat. It's a high performance epoxy medium hardener. All right, see right here, clear, non-blushing, low viscosity for laminating, and excellent flex properties. All right, you do not want to use an epoxy that blushes when you're skinning. If you do so, you're going to be in for some hell of a pain in the ass job. Okay, so it all comes with a price. This is the creme de la creme of epoxy. All right, you're not going to find a non-blushing epoxy in a medium and or hard fast hardener unless you go to West or Total Boat. All right, there's a lot of epoxies out there and they're not all created equal. Okay, so for like my boat project, it's okay to use blushing epoxy. It's structural stuff, you know, for the boat, but anything like when it comes to skinning something like this, you definitely need, you can't have that blush. Now at the same time also, this does have some UV protectant in it, but not a lot. They still recommend that you use a clear coat if it's going to be exposed to the sun, so that's what we're going to do. I've had this set up now in 180. I'm going to hit it with a nice thin flow coat of resin. That's going to dry. Then I'm going to come in with my 600 wet, block it one final time, and then we're going to shoot it with some clear. All right. You may say, well, wow, you know, 180 and 80 is pretty heavy. It is. The great part about epoxy is, not to get too technical with you, when you block it with 80, 180, shit, 40 grit, doesn't matter the grit. The way the epoxy bends the light is crystal clear. okay? So you don't see sanding scratches in it. The only reason why we're going to block it with 600 is because we're going to come in with automotive clear coat. So we need to level it and then come in with automotive clear. Now, we could go straight from, if this wasn't going to be exposed to the sun, right off the finish that we're about to put on it, we could go directly to, you know, 1200, 1500, 2000, and then polish it. It looks beautiful when it's polished. But in this case, we got to clear coat it. So you have options. No problem with the urethane clear on epoxy resin. No big deal at all. It bonds beautifully. You don't need any type of adhesion promoter or none of that stuff. You're good to go. All right. But I will say, if you're going to do something like this, guys, seriously, don't go right for the big stuff. Do something small, because this it's no joke. This is a big job if you want it to come out good, and it's very laborious, time consuming, and it's hard on you because, like, it's hard on my hands. My hands are shot. Between the sticky from the epoxy and all the itchy from the carbon, I'm in rough shape. All right, enough of that complaining. So here we go. This is the last coat of epoxy that I'm putting on now, and typically this is a real thin coat. It's just enough to get a nice flat surface and fill in all the scratches from the 180. A little bit, guys, goes a long way with this, okay? So you can see it's just coming to life as, you know, putting it on here. I know you guys like those time lapses and stuff, so you get the satisfaction of like 3 weeks worth of work, all right, in like 30 seconds. When you brush a resin on or a top coat, we call it tipping. In the marine world, it's basically, you know, you go down your sun, you go one direction, and then you go the other direction, and then what happens is it kind of like just magically levels out. It comes out beautiful. You go through a lot of consumables, guys. It's only been like maybe 30 minutes. All right, and I don't recycle these chip brushes. I throw them right in the garbage. By the time you weigh out the price of the cleaner, and then you got to get rid of this stuff to save a 30-cent brush, I just chuck them. You know what I mean? But you can see a little bit of dust. What do you think of that? Reminds me of engine turning from, like, you know, the 1950s and 60s. Pretty cool, guys. I like it. I like I said, I never mixed up. You can see my sanding line. I never mixed up the fabrics before like this, and I didn't know how it was going to come out, and I think it came out not too bad for a first go around. Airbrush is part of this, all right? Like, so like right here, I'll come in, I'll blend that out. This fillet that we did with the epoxy, touch that up, you know, a couple little spots, but that's all part of it. Inside here where the grills go, I'll touch that up. I don't know, and I don't know. I don't know where we're going yet, but I'll do something. Who knows what'll happen when I get that airbrush in my hand. So after that dries, we're gonna have to block this now with 600 wet, just like we, for instance, just like we're setting up a regular paint job. So prior to this, even though we brushed it, it's the same practices: waxing, grease remover, tack cloth, all that stuff, right? So like I said, it's all your skills, guys, combined, you know, into one particular type of job when you're doing something like this. This is a beast, guys. It really is. So you got the acrylic on there now. Cut this real nice. Table saw action. My buddy Mick helped me cut this, and then we routed it. I polished the edges. Communication port for the Holly. Got the switches. I'm still working on those, and then got everything kind of set up here nicely, all right? So this is the final look at the final mock-up here. I got to bust it down again, and I'm going to start throwing it in the car. So that's pretty much it, guys. All right, we'll get this thing set in there and starting to see how it looks. I'm gonna flip it over and show you the inside though on the button box real quick, so you can see actually how I did that, because I videoed the whole thing, and like I said, that's part of the stuff that I lost, and it really sucks because that came out as a pretty good piece to make right there. To break this down to you the best way I can, this button box, it started off as a piece of door sill cover, rigging tube, whatever you want to call it, okay? I had a piece of leftover of that. See, I got all the wires running through that, okay? And that's going to go up to, by the time I'm done with this mess, you know, everything's going to be mounted up nice and nice. So I had a piece of that left over, and then I bonded the side and the bottom from another flat piece of material. When it comes to the bonding of the carbon, after it's set up, if you're going to bond two pieces together, it's really simple. Like, what I use is, I use the paste to kind of tack weld it together. After it's in position and basically welded where you need it to be, all right, you come in with a product like this. This is fume silica. In the industry, you call it Cabasil. All this is a thickening agent. Now, when it comes to this, a lot goes a very small way. So, like, say you're making an ounce of thickened epoxy, you probably need 6 ounces of this. So, if you guys remember, in the last video when I saved this carbon, and if we look towards the bottom, see, I'm going to make a mess now, all right? If you look towards the bottom, there's a bunch of chopped stuff, chopped pieces. See how it's all chopped up right there? So what I'll do is, I'll chop it up real fine. So I'll make a cocktail of the Cabasil. I start off with the epoxy. I use the Cabasil, and I use the chopped carbon, all right? I mix that together to a consistency like a peanut butter that we call them in the industry. Basically, we make peanut butter, but I'm reinforcing it with carbon, all right? You could use fiberglass too. So once that combination's mixed up, you put it in a pastry bag, like you're making a cake, like you see, you know, people decorating the cakes. You could use a regular sandwich bag or whatever, cut the corner off, but you need a way to squirt it in there, all right? So when you have the two pieces together, it's forming a 90-degree angle. You come in with your tongue depressor, I call them popsicle sticks, whatever, but the radius on that's a 1/2 inch, all right? 1/2 inch is it's about the smallest you want to be, but because this is a small part. If this was like something structural on a boat, we use something way bigger. But this, we use 1/2 inch, right? Now if you look, so I'll come in, I'll squirt the thickened resin in the areas I'm looking to bond it, right? And if you look how nice this matches, you see? All right, that's the radius that we used to basically weld it together. After the thickened resin is applied, I wait until it starts to lock up a little bit, and then I came in with like 3 layers of carbon, wet on wet, strips, okay? And blended it all out, and now it's literally one piece, okay? It's permanent part of the dashboard. So it's probably the strongest part of the car. You could probably hook a tow strap up to it and tow the car from that thing. But that's basically the rundown. I'm sorry, guys. Listen, I got so much fiberglass work to do in the future. That part of the process we're gonna do over and over and over again. So you'll get tired of that if you're hanging around for that project that's coming next on the boat. So, I mean, whatever. So I'm gonna bang in the HVAC vents now and maybe try to lay this thing up in the car, but that's pretty much where we're at. You know, I painted the frame and did all this other stuff, so, you know, just like everything else, nice and simple, one step at a time. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions about more questions, I know that this video got a little jacked up, holler at me on Instagram. There's many of you out there already I spoke to personally through the messenger there, and we've worked out a few things, so that's kind of cool. I'm glad I can help you out that way. So yeah, just feel free. I'm not like one of these stuck up too cool guys to be responding to you, okay? Not too bad. This has been a long video, guys. Thanks for hanging around for it. Big job, long video. All right, it's just that simple. I'm gonna finish putting her together. Got to make some door panels and just a few more things here and there. I guess I'll check back in with you guys in a little bit. Maybe when we get to the wiring. Right now the biggest problem is just waiting on the electronics. It's very difficult to get electronics right now. So it is what it is. But on that one, guys, do the thing for me. Like, subscribe, share. Hope this video inspired you to get out of your comfort zone and maybe try something different. All right. So with all that, guys, keep focused on your project. Keep knocking it out. It's a journey, guys. There's a lot of ups and downs. So such is life, right? I'll check you out in the next one. Peace.